Hey my Shuga Bears, welcome back to my channel, Bougie AF. It's your host, OGJackeeNicole. It's where I say stay bougie on them. It's me feeding you feminism for the soul. It's my soul food offering. It's where I apply pressure to issues by being critical and logical. Now don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's get to the commentary where I can guarantee you I will be doing too much because that's just me. And like Sheree said, who's gonna check me, boo?
Welcome, Black y'all. You are tuned in to the Bougie AF channel. This is your girl, OGJackeeNicole, where I say stay bougie on them, and I'm serving you feminism for the soul. Check me out on them people's Instagram at BougieAF_ish, and then also on Twitter at I'm_bougie_AF. So listen, this is going to be a one topic video. So I'm hoping, and I'm fingers crossed, I'm hoping to keep this at least a half an hour. One of the things I wanted to talk about was this fake women empowerment. Again, it's coming up in terms of like what women tap into when they want to market themselves, or they just want sympathy, empathy, and compassion, and all those things, while not really truly being allies to other women, right? I have been completely honest in terms of I don't feel like I'm in community with all women, and that's perfectly fine with me. It's something that I accept. I was in a room the other day and they were talking about, women and naturally feeling like they have to compete and all this other stuff. And I just think that's just some ghetto ass mindset shit. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Because I find that people rather be destructive, hateful, vengeful, jealous, envious, and all this other stuff. And I'm not going to sit up here and talk about it as if though it's some natural human instinct and that you just, it's just how we operate, right? And I just don't. I didn't come from that. Competition is one thing, but competition is, you do your best to get the results you want. Competition is not sabotage. Competition is not hating. Competition is not being vengeful. It's not none of those things, right? And I think when you hear people try to make dysfunction seem as though it's normal, it's very disgusting, right? So that was the room I was in the other day, but it's the reason why I know I'm not in community with all women. I think the dopest example of like women, and there are really dope examples. I don't want to say there aren't, because they're really amazing examples of times that women do come together, support, and it's a lovely relationship. We can always look at Gayle King and Oprah Winfrey. They've been best friends for years. Who else? I think Naomi Campbell, she tells a dope story of her two close, good girlfriends, and starting in a business, how she is who she is because of them, and them wanted to make sure she was included, and they kind of, brought her up with them as they were moving up, right? So there's examples out there, and I don't ever want to paint the picture that there isn't, but this new generation and what we got going on in real life and what happens in the streets and what happens with dealing with people, it can be deadly. And I don't think I'm being extra. I don't think I'm being too much. I can pull you up stories of recently. How long ago was this? I just read a story about 3 weeks ago where this 15-year-old girl in New York was stabbed to death by another girl, and it's believed, and from everything I read, the news, that the girl was just jealous of the girl she ended up stabbing. The girl she stabbed was just popular. She was a cheerleader. She was just that girl, and this girl did not like her. Now, this goes into, there's sometimes people just don't like you, and they could just not like the attention you get and all this other stuff. And so they create a problem with you, and they manifest it in real life. And that happens. I've seen it on Clubhouse, where I feel like there's times that people, or in real life, like I feel like there are people who know that they may not like me, and that is okay. But do not go out your way to try to interact with me or have a situation with me, knowing you already made up your mind on how you felt about me. I'll do nothing to change your mind. Nothing. I don't feel like I will have to go out my way and be extra nice to you, or or allow you to treat me a certain way and I don't speak back because I want you to think that I'm a nice person. No, there's going to be none of that. All of what was said is true. That's how I'm gonna simply get to it, right? In terms of, if I feel like you fucking with me, all that, whatever the fuck you heard is true. If that's what you really want it to be, I'll never back down for if I got at a nigga, it's because they did something. I stand on it, right? With that being said, back to like women in general. So yeah, I don't feel like we're all in community. The 15-year-old girl, she ends up stabbing her to death out of pure, from what's being reported by people who knew them, this pure jealousy, right? And I think the girl gonna get like 9 years in prison. She took a whole life out of jealousy, right? And we try to normalize this type of dysfunctional way of thinking, and making it seem as though, oh, that's just part of life, and you're gonna, you'll be a stronger person if you adopt to it. Like in real life, you get around people that wants the best for you. You want the best for them, but you don't get around people who are willing to sabotage, set you up, and see a lot of harmful, hurtful things happening in your life. I, for one, if I feel like I don't like a person, I'm going to stop being friends with them, right? Because where did it cross over to hate that I would want to see something harmful happen to you? Like, what is going on with me that my pure dislike, not that you did anything to me personally, but that I may not just like something about you? And it could be anything: how you talk, how you walk, how you carry yourself. It could be anything, right? That I would go to the extent to want to see or make life hard for you. That makes me a hater. Always would have always been a hater. There'd be something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me if I result to that type of behavior. And I want to be completely honest. I would say that, like, in general, I just think that there would be something wrong with me if it was borderline, I don't like somebody, or I no longer want to be their friend, and instead of not picking up the phone, not going around them, not being in their car, not acting like they your favorite person in the world to be around, I wouldn't be doing none of that because I'm a fucking adult. I wouldn't go around them. But that's the hard part of female relationships. That 15-year-old girl's dead. I told you guys the story of the girl who set the 5 boys up in the woods because it goes down like that. I told you the story of the 3 girls in my city who got shot. I think 2 of them died because they were meeting men at the club and sending their niggas back to their homes to rob them, right? So, like, there's just, there are there are consequences. There are things that are happening in real life that I'm not just blowing it out of proportion. It's really crazy. So that leads us to the story that I did want to talk to you guys about today, which is, fake women empowerment. When women who know that they routinely go against women, or they stay quiet while women are disrespected and don't stand up for other women, or don't even advocate or be strong women in situations where they could really give a woman perspective, they just decide not to show up, right? They decide to reap all the benefits that comes from being one of the dudes. But then it's just, life happens, right? Where if you're sitting around anybody, and this doesn't even have to be a gender specific thing, you're sitting around anybody and it's their nature to disrespect people, just know that your time is coming, right? Like, because a disrespectful person a disrespectful somebody to one person is a disrespectful to all, right? There's no picking and choosing. There's gonna come a time in some way that you're gonna feel disrespected, and they're going to try you in some type of way. And I think when it comes to the story with Angela Yee in the Breakfast Club, and her talking about her experience of the 12 years that she was on there, what she experienced as the only woman, she claims that she was the only woman who worked on the show or worked in the entire building, right? She painted a very, like, 1970s male dominated, radio is still male dominated, but extremely male dominated. Like, she made it seem like there was not a woman in sight for days at the Breakfast Club studios. And yeah, we're gonna read into that. So I just wanted to give you that little brief introduction. I'm gonna go ahead and play the video so y'all can see what Miss Angela said.
Lone woman, because you were the lone woman on this show, with a lot of bravado, with a lot of edge, disruptive, and that's why millions of people love the show. It seemed to me that people were always riding you.
Yeah, and I was the only woman who worked there too. I mean, when it came to producers, camera people, and it wasn't an easy room for me to be in. I didn't know that. So I feel like I did need more, like, backup, because even things that I felt as
the lone woman, because you were the lone woman on this show.
a woman, it is, if somebody can't understand your point of view because they're not coming from where you come from, And so that was hard for me too, to be the only woman there with nobody to be like, check somebody, you know, you shouldn't have said that like that. It's just me. And there were times I did do that behind the scenes because, you know, we should be able to do that. That's part of what it is. I'm not always going to agree. But it's hard when nobody's like, you know what, she's right. Or let's all have a conversation about this. It's just kind of like you say what you say, and then a woman, it is, you know, if somebody can't understand your point of view because they're not coming from where you come from. And so that was hard for me too, to be the only woman there with nobody to be like, check somebody, you know, you shouldn't have said that like that. It's just me. And there were times I did do that behind the scenes because, you know, we should be able to do that. That's part of what it is. I'm not always going to agree. But it's hard when nobody's like, you know what, she's right. Or let's all have a...
It's hard to listen to Angela Yee paint this impression and paint this picture of like what life had been on The Breakfast Club, because as viewers and listeners and things like that, it was just, that's not the impression that we were given. She sat around these men for like 12 years as one of the guys and went along. I'm not going to say she partaked in everything, but it most definitely didn't sound like she was objecting to anything on air to give anybody the impression that she was unhappy with what was happening. Right? Like we never got the impression that she was upset about how by how her co-hosts were behaving at times. And we're talking about Charlotte the Queen, who was doing things like making other women uncomfortable, right? Smelling their fart, smelling their chair. You had one point in time he was passing out. He gave his co-host a molded behind for as a gift. It was like, it got really weird. He made Donnell Rawlings uncomfortable with like, you know, sexual innuendos type jokes, just like weird shit, pervert shit. Like, let's be honest with you. Charlotte gives you pervert vibes, right? From his face, knowing that he was never that nigga pulling people's. And it kind of, I'll go in on Charlotte because when it comes to this situation with CashApp Reed, I'll be completely honest with you. I remember a few years back and Charlotte was on air and he was really trying to, you know, make eating the booty sound cool. And it was the first time him and this nigga around where I'm from, it was the first time I ever heard niggas really trying to talk like eating booty was like a thing that, you know, I know I can be extremely kind of prudish, but you know, I grew up watching the porn. I see what people, you know, even if I don't do it, I know what people are usually, you know, doing out here, and nobody was eating booty in the porn, okay? I'll be completely honest. And so when I came around and heard Charlotte, and then I heard, what's his name? The DJ dude, where I'm from talking about it, I immediately say, yo, these are some pervs. I immediately say they must have either been locked up, sexually, what I have found, like I said, I'm no doctor, I'm just telling you my opinion, and all this shit is allegedly. Y'all know how I do. Allegedly. I've always found like when you can tell a hypersexual person, female and male, I'm not even gonna make it a gender thing, and you usually can make the assumption that they either may have been touched inappropriately when they were younger or exposed to sex really early on, so they have a I hope I'm saying it right, like they're hypersexual. That's what I want to say. They're very hypersexual. So when I listened to Charlotte and I listened to this nigga around the way trying to make eating the booty cool, I said, no. In my head, I said, no. Something's going on here, because I didn't watch the porn and nobody was eating the booty in the porn. So I was like, nah, something ain't right. So with that being said, I'm not surprised. I was not surprised when the story came out about Jessica Reed. He had made fun about using date rape drug. Niggas don't walk around with that. That ain't on that sketchy, you know what I mean, pervert shit. So like to even joke that he used it on his wife when they were dating, like what's like that's not okay. Like that's not okay. But I tell you all this to say that they sat there and there was times he made like little mama cry on the show. What else did he do? Yeah, just very inappropriate sexual jokes and weird shit that he would always say that would creep you out. Like from looking at Charlotte the Queen, y'all know like he wasn't that dude in the neighborhood. From the story from CashApp Reed, he was older than them. I think maybe 19. I'm from, you know, maybe 19, and she was still like 15. 16 years old. So he was older, still hanging out with young people, about the same as your favorite Robert Sylvester Kelly. He was into doing the same thing, being way older, hanging out with younger people. Like, all I can do is point out coincidences of behavior, right? It's all there, right? Allegedly. So you had this going on. You had Angela Yee being called out by K. Michelle because playing with her when Mano and Uncle Murder was on The Breakfast Club. You know, Uncle Murder does this year-end wrap-up song every year where he just wraps up the events with other artists and actors, and he raps, but it's like a roast, right? Where he roasts people, and he tells jokes, and they're very harsh, they're very dark, they're not PG-13 type of jokes that he tells. The problem was that he would include K. Michelle, and he would talk about her, he would talk about her Hot Pocket. Now, just remind you, has he ever been near K. Michelle Hot Pocket? No. Has he been in the same room with K. Michelle's Hot Pocket? No. He knows nothing about K. Michelle's Hot Pocket. And this is why I call like bullshit in general on people when they try to hold people accountable for specific type of behavior in terms of being messy, trying to destroy somebody, trying to not talk from a factual standpoint. Everyone likes to say they speak in facts, but we're all speaking our opinions, right? In jest or whatever your motive or reasoning for, right? Everyone is doing that. But for some people, there tends to be like people trying to hold them to some type of standard that does not exist, right? Everybody's popping their gums, everybody's running their mouth. As we can see, there are individuals like Candy, we have individuals like Tamar who are celebrities, but they're also personalities and give their opinions about different things in the news, right? We have Trick Daddy, who is we have all of Wendy Williams' sons and daughters right now in the business, right? With that being said, everybody is speaking on things. I just think it's real hypocritical with someone like Uncle Murder, who was allowed for years to continue to talk about K. Michelle, and no one say, hey, God, you sound extremely misogynistic, you sound bitter, you sound angry, you sound like you hate women. Like, none of these things came out. Why nobody called him a wizard? Why didn't nobody tell him stop the cap? Why didn't nobody say or just try to discredit what he was saying? Because it was unfactual. There was nothing truthful about what he was trying to imply about K. Michelle, right? But nobody called that out to this day. No man, no nothing. Nobody has called that out, right? So that's why I say I call bullshit on anybody, like, when they try to hold other people responsible for, their blogging and what they do. Like, everybody picks and chooses on who can say what and how can it be said and say it like this, or you're not saying it with good intentions. What fucking good intentions is making up shit? Right? There's a difference in talking about things and giving your opinion to things that are happening, right? Right or wrong, or maybe, you may feel like someone is too harsh. You may not like their opinion, but that's not the same thing as someone just making up shit. So that's why when you seen Tasha K, get in trouble for what she did to Cardi B, nobody was here for that. But that's the same thing Uncle Murder had been doing for years in terms of making up shit on K. Michelle. He didn't even have a partner who slept with her to say that's what it is. This nigga was just saying it. Right? You cannot make up things and just say it. You can't make up things. That is not what you cannot make up things and just say it. And that's something completely different than being a vlogger or a blogger who speaks to things and comments on things, right? That's not the same thing as breaking and doing exposés with what Tasha K was doing, right? She was doing expose. She got exclusive evidence, supposedly, allegedly. You know what I mean? That's something completely different. But nobody called it out, right? All that said, Uncle Murder said what he said about K. Michelle. There was a whole bunch of laughs. There was points in time in the interview that the conversation would change. And then... And it didn't take K. Michelle didn't have to call this out. Like, everyone, when you seen it, I remember the comments at that time. Everybody seen it for what it was, because you literally would watch them move on from talking from K. Michelle, and then you would see Angela Yee bring up K. Michelle again, and then the jokes would start all over again. And then and she would sit there and be laughing, or not. smiling, but everybody would be laughing, right? And so when K Michelle finally got her chance to come up there after that interview, she really she was nicer than I think I would have been, to be completely honest. Because I think probably for me, I felt like K Michelle should ask, "Do we have a problem?" Like, I really felt like K Michelle needed to ask her that, because the way she took personal enjoyment out of doing that, and as a woman, right? If you can sit down and be all right with a man lying on another woman in her hot pocket, knowing that he ain't never been near her hot pocket, it was like in your face when Gucci Man called her out and put her out there. How does that feel when someone... Angela says Gucci Man is lying, right? How does it feel when someone just lies on you? Right? And it didn't feel good because she didn't like that, right? She looked as stupid after Gucci Man embarrassed her and called her a bitch to her co-host, and he sat there and let it happen and didn't check that nigga, right? That's little sis, though. So that same comfort that you felt like that you were benefiting from being in the protection of men because you were talking like the men, it didn't cover you in real life. So K Michelle checked her and let her know that, yo, I sat there and I watched you. And there are punk ass people like this where they won't say it themselves, but they'll let other people come on their show or come on their platforms and say it. And they'll just laugh through them, right? So they can never be called out because they didn't actually come out through, they didn't actually say it themselves. And I think when we seen that, I know for me, that was the last straw for me. Because I didn't never feel like she was like any strong presence for a woman in the room, right? I've always felt like, and I'm not someone who kind of talks about colorism a lot, because I do see a great representation of brown skinned women on TV, and so that's why for me I really like to talk about it, because I got my Kenya Moore, but I see a lot of representation. I'm not someone who's like jaded in a way, and I actually really love my skin complexion, so I think we're the dopest in the game, to be completely honest. I think we the dopest when it comes to dark skin girls. So you can't, I'm not affected like some other people may be affected by colorism. And that's not to say it doesn't exist. I don't ever want to paint that picture, because it does most definitely exist. But when it comes to colorism, I've always felt like Angela Yee and even Laura Stiles from Hot 97 in New York, I've always felt like they were in rooms or in position because of how they look, right? Laura Stiles, I believe she is some type of Spanish from the West Coast. I believe Angela Yee is mixed with black and some type of Asian, right? But when you sit back and traditionally think of like what radio hosts sound like and how they usually do sound like a Just Hilarious. They usually do sound like a Porsha. I mean, Kendra G is in Chicago, and she has a bomb personality, right? It's engaging. She has a lot of animation in her voice. You want to listen to her, and where I say each is on, right? Maybe, I feel like Angela Yee is more suited for probably podcasting, where you don't have to have like an over-the-top personality, right? And like I said, there are shows I listen to and it's straight talking. There's no animation. There's no it's about a personality. It's more or less about the conversation being had and great information, being exchanged, right? And that's just pure talking. I listen to those type of programs all the time. I have no problem with those type of programs. I have an attention span that I have duality in my attention span. So but when I'm tuning into a show like The Breakfast Club, I've always wanted more from from Angela Yee and Laura Stiles in terms of opinions that are coming from women and needing it to be black women, right? Because as much as, I may not like Angela Yee and I may not like Charlotte the Queen, I understand the significance and how important the Breakfast Club has been to the culture. With the very large, if you're running for office, you go to the Breakfast Club. That's why Biden went there. That's why Hillary Clinton goes there. So they most definitely have been important in terms of that they can reach millions and millions of people, and so you want to be sitting interviewed by them. But there was times and issues and things that do happen and socially that I always felt like was not being represented, and I just think other co-hosts like a Porsha and other co-hosts like a Just Hilarious, I love what's her name what is her name? The basketball wife one. Tammy Roman, I love her. I think she's dope. You know who else I would actually like to see try out for the Breakfast Club, Tammy Rivera. I think Tammy Rivera is interesting. I think she also represents. She's a strong black woman. I know. I mean, clearly she's mixed with something, but I still get strong black woman vibes from her. Who else would I want to see? I know Just Hilarious has been up there. I know Lala has been up there. I know Porsha's been up there. Who else would be really, really good that has a personality? But that's what I picture being in one of those chairs, like someone with a really great personality. Right now, we just got Charlotte, the queen, and we getting, I guess we getting best of both worlds, a woman and a man, and him. But we need an actual woman up there. And so I've always felt like we weren't represented, especially on that watered down bullshit happening at the Hot 97. I don't even pull that shit up no more. Like, right? Like, I don't pull that shit. It's not culturally honest, right? Like, I'm just gonna keep it 100. It's not even culturally honest with Ebro. So you got Ebro up there, and then you got Laura Styles, and I think there's another, oh, and sorry, Rosenberg. It's not culturally honest to the community that it serves, right? These shows are intended to serve the black community. They make their money off the black community. It is black music. It is black actors. Like, it serves the black community. Like, there's just no getting around that. So with that being said, I always feel as if though it's a little disrespectful when you don't have black people talking to black people about issues that pertaining to black people. That's just how I feel. And so when you looking at, Hot 97, I don't give a fuck about what Rosenberg thinks about police brutality. I don't give a fuck about what he thinks about black issues, right? He may be talented in rap history and all this other stuff, but when a platform is bigger than just the music, right? Bigger than just one person, and people use it to benefit, especially like our politicians and actors and stuff like that, and musicians, they use it to benefit them because they can reach people. Then you have a duty, right? You have a duty to educate. You have a duty to be responsible. You have a duty to enlighten your people in ways that they may not realize, with being able to ask questions and being able to make sure their interests are spoken up for, right? And so when you have people who aren't serious and people who aren't from the community, then you're not going to get those moments, right? And as much as Ebro maybe mixed himself, I still at times think there's some cultural aspects within the dealings within the black community that sometimes he does not get. And I know a lot of times people think they've gone to these historically black colleges and they've read all the socially conscious books, and so they are experts on they are experts, and sometimes it's just like, no, you're missing it. You're missing it. You're missing it. You're missing it. So yeah, that's what happened here. So I'm going to read some of the comments. Gucci Man ended the Breakfast Club because after that Breakfast Club interview, I think it was a reality check for her. I think she realized, he really let that man disrespect me and didn't say anything. Very interesting. This person says, this woman, fun size _ T, says very interesting. I'm sorry. She's fun size _ T. She says very interesting. As myself and several other women producers have worked side by side with her at the Breakfast Club, and that's what people did not like about this, because it just wasn't true, right? You even heard Tamron Hall say, "Whoa, I didn't know that," right? Like, clearly, like, she didn't know that her work environment was what she described very much like as if though she was showing up and doing a radio show in the NFL, like a locker room or something, and you didn't see another woman for days. Like, she just gave this very bleak, prehistoric, picture of like what her life was like on the Breakfast Club. Like, and just to remind you, she stayed there for 12 years, right? So she got all she wanted out of the situation. Just like a Debra Lee, now all of a sudden we got Me Too movements popping up. That ain't how that go. This person says, she was low-key boring on the show, if we're keeping it real. 8,128 likes. Like, that's just literally what it is. Let's see what other people are saying about that in agreement. She was high-key boring. This person said, fuck low-key. High-key, she was boring. Like, she was boring. There was no sister girl relatable moments that you're going to get with, like, a Porsha. You're going to get with, like, a Tammy. Like, there was none of that. Like, at all. Someone said high key. These people can just keep saying high key. Boring as hell. And that's what it really came across like. And the reason why I decided to bring up colorism, because like it was just sitting there, like the talent was not there. And that's not to say they did not earn their paychecks, because they showed up and did what they were asked to do. So I'll never take that from them. But from an entertainment standpoint, there's nothing entertaining about a Laura or Angela Yee. Like, Angela Lee is like Asian food without the chili oil. Like, it's bland, David. It was. I would be pissing and the other two wasn't there. When the other two wasn't there. Oh, shit. She was corny as fuck. 100% the truth. And this is women and men, right? She was hella boring. Yep, that's why y'all, the memories never included her. Oh, shit. No, now that you think about it, like when you sit back and you listen to iconic moments in terms of like iconic moments on Breakfast Club, outside of K. Michelle, you know, cursing her the fuck, like not cursing her because she didn't curse. I don't remember her cursing. She spoke to her very firm and let it be known. But after that dragon, that little dragon she got, like we don't have any like real moments of like Angela Yee stealing the show and, you know, gave us a good moment, a kiki, or maybe even a cry. Like she gave us none of that. People just saying that she's boring, to be completely honest. It was a comment that I wanted to get to. This person says, I agree. I always thought she added little to no value on the show. Charla, the Queen, was the Breakfast Club's Beyonce. DJ Envy was Kelly Rowland, and she was Michelle Williams. No, it was getting very boring. She was definitely high key. Okay, so people just think she was boring. This person wrote, I'll never forget what she did to K. Michelle. Made me lose so much respect. There are plenty of women who work behind the scenes. That's what DJ Envy, her co-host, said. I mean, that's generally like what people think about the situation. And like they did mention to K. Michelle, you have DJ Envy, her co-host. He responded with calling her out, saying that it's cap. I'm coming over here for more comments. This person, Miss Ross Radio at DJ Envy. I'm pretty sure she's referring to the actual show and not the overall work environment. We're very aware that she was probably not the only woman present, but she was the only woman to co-host with you and Charlemagne. Stop acting stupid like you don't know what she's talking about. You literally just proved her entire point. Typical ego. Ooh, I didn't see that comment. I will say this. I think that Angela Yee just did not express herself the right way. And what I do think she was trying to say, because it's Sim 3 on the show and she's the only woman, there are times and things and situations that came up that she was unable or did not feel supported, because men do what men do in these types of environments. Even if women work in these type of environments, a lot of times some women are so programmed and trained to go along with what men are saying in environments that they don't want to rock the boats. They don't want, if you're behind the scenes, you're okay with being behind the scenes, and they just really just trying to show up and do their job, right? There are those people who play that role. So just feeling as if though just because there are other women in the building, that does not mean that she was always supported about the things that she wanted or the things that she just did not think was right. And so what I think she's saying is that yes, there may be in other producers, but her, or, you know, the direction of the show and where it's going to go was between them three. And that the pressure of having to fight or push back against DJ Envy and Charlemagne, the Queen, is that it was a lot. Right? And there was just times she was not supported, right? And I can see her and her feelings and her thoughts being dismissed. I've been in these type of these environments in terms of like radio, online radio, and working with a whole bunch of men that I totally understand what she was trying to say. She just did not say it the right way, right? And that's why people, and when you don't, you know, hindsight's always 2020. There's times, I wish I would have better expressed myself in situations or been able to further explain how I felt differently if it was confusing. Like sometimes you don't get to, come back and, kind of further explain. And this is just one of those times, but I truly understand what she's talking about. I went through that, right? I remember being at this online radio station, and I remember This is right before podcast popped off, and I was literally trying to do the online show, but also like trying to do it like a podcast. And I just remember like everyone thought I was like corny, I was weird, I was whack. Don't nobody just want to sit and listen to people talk. And as we can see, we have this multi-million-dollar industry. And it's really sad, but I most definitely know what she's talking about in terms of just not feeling like you're supported, and people will make you seem like there's something wrong with you, because you know, you may look at things differently, you may have a different approach to things. Yeah, like I said, I totally understand where she and what she was trying to say. She just didn't say it right. Someone said just leave gracefully. No need to throw salt to the show. It's fine without her, honestly. Why wait until you leave to dog the show? You were happy with the checks. It's tacky. I totally agree with that. Like, I'd rather you had, if you were going to leave and this was the reason behind your leaving, I would rather you had kept it honest about that's the reason. And I know people are like, well, you know, you don't want to go on a bad note, or not to say that you had to go out on a bad argumentative note, but if you were really standing your ground for what you believe in, and there's, you know, then you do that. And you let that be known, like, this is what it is, and I'm out because of it. And she did not do that. And I feel that same way about Debra Lee, right? Like, what do you mean? I was 20 years in. You were 20 years in and 20 years richer, 20 years later richer, and decided to continue to get that money, right? Or there was never a point where you're just like, this is too much, I can't take it. My self-worth and what, you know, how I feel about myself, and I don't play about me, so I'm getting out of here. Like, none of that never kicked in. So it's just kind of weird when it kicks in after the fact. What the fuck is that after the fact? Y'all know I'm not here for after the fact bullshit. It's given she's not getting the attention she thought she was gonna get when she left the show. Now she's trying to clout chase to stay relevant. Totally agree. Like, the three of them together, that works, right? There are some like personalities in terms of like radio, they may not be strong enough to be like a on their own type of situation, but when they get with certain other people, it's like magic. I do feel like when it comes to this show, DJ Envy's not a strong enough radio personality on his own, right? Charlotte can carry a show on his own. The back in the day Charlotte, the raw, gonna say it like he means it, Charlotte, but not the Charlotte that we know about, the Jessica Nicole Reed and all his actual bullshit. Charlotte, he a little bit more tame now, so he don't say as much as he used to when he was like really disgusting and stuff like that. But he could carry a show. And the same thing with Angela Yee. She's not a strong enough personality to carry the show. Like the same way y'all sat here and watched her in his interviews, the same way she shows up on her show. She speaks in a very monotone type of you know, delivery. I never know she's excited about anything. There's no animation. Yeah, it's just like just talking to somebody. And so y'all know me, I've been around, I go look and find things. I wanted to see like what was the old Angela Yee, like maybe I'm missing it, right? Sometimes you gotta say to yourself, you maybe you don't get it because you don't get it and everybody else get it, because again she did rise to this position, right? So I was like, okay, well maybe it's me sometimes. So I go back and I start looking for old clips of her back in the day when she used to do a show with Joe Budden back in the day, and just to see like, okay, maybe her personality changed over the years. You get older, you calm the fuck down, you just you behave differently, right? So I'm thinking I was going to see something really extremely different. That ain't what I seen. I still didn't see it, right? So I know I'm not tripping. I truly think because of colorism, and this whole Angela Yee and Laura Stiles represent the underlying sentiments of some men not wanting to work with black women in professional spaces. And what you see is that they rather work with women who look in like a Angela Yee and Laura Stiles, because what you find out from sitting around a lot of men, especially men who are in that manosphere, or men who do those gender war types of videos and stuff like that, what you do see is that they are always trying to equate black women, right, specifically to being negative, hard to work with, difficult, all of these things, argumentative, difficult to work with, have an attitude. Now, just to remind you, an attitude for I find a lot of times with black men is because you don't center them and just allow for, you don't center them and you just don't allow for them to be the final word, in the sense of like, if we're sitting around talking and ideas and things are being exchanged, a lot of times what I found in this same type of work environment, there are some men who want to be the ones who come up with all the ideas and everything that the group does, right? They necessarily don't want to share that type of light with women, right? And that frustrates them, that makes them mad, that kind of intimidates them, right? So when you hear certain men and they try to say that, you know, some women are masculine, I'm going to always push back and find out, what do they mean when they say masculine, right? What do they mean when they say aggressive, right? I literally just had this happen for me at a job that I was working. I never said anything to this man, out the way. All of a sudden he was like, you know, you can be kind of aggressive. I was like, why are you using that word? Oh, you know, we need people to be aggressive. I was like, yeah, but the way you're using it is like, my personality is aggressive, like when you talk to me, and that's never the case, right? If I can stand on what I believe, and if we're having a conversation about like what we think is right or wrong, what to do at work, and I'm laying it out to you why I think the way I think, that's nothing to do with being aggressive. You either can stand on your 10, be able to articulate yourself and explain what you're talking about, or you can't, right? And I think a lot of times what I'm finding is that people just can't stand on their square, and so they then try to label that experience as, you know, unpleasant. But I guess it is unpleasant, right? You couldn't make your point. For you, it's unpleasant, but that does not mean because something is unpleasant because you are inadequate or unable to perform, does not mean that someone attacked you, does not mean someone did anything to you, right? What it ends up then happening is that sometimes men will be intimidated by that, right? Because they know that you're not that type of woman that will just let them say whatever, right or wrong, right? Let them say whatever. And if you're right, I'm going to let you say it. But if you're wrong, they know that if they're wrong, that you'll be that woman that would be able to show why you're wrong, right? And that you'd be that woman to kind of, I'm not going to say you try to go out your way, because I can't make people say this shit, you know what I'm saying? But they just know that it's not going to be easy to fool you. And so a lot of men are intimidated by that. A lot of men feel like that's a masculine trait. And that's where it becomes really weird, because they'll feel like that's masculine, that's aggressive. And I just had this conversation. I'm going to try to wrap this up soon. I just did a video on my YouTube, and I talked about this, where I was like, you know, when I think about, you know, the fact about when people talk about masculine women, I don't find a consistent description of like what that is, right? And I find the things that people do try to, you know, call women out for are the same, is behavior that when men do it would be considered just rude, right? So let's just take, for example, I was reading the comments. So I got this off of a post about masculine, you know, women being masculine. I got this off a post, and this man said, "Oh, a woman that always that's always speaking," right? So for him, that's masculine, because, you know, I guess we're not supposed to speak. So that's concerning. I think all women should be concerned. A woman that that takes the lead, right? So again, I guess women aren't just allowed to take the lead. And it's one thing if maybe you're talking about like your relationship and however your home is set up. But I've always been completely honest. It's concerning because I think men are walking around applying this to every settings, and that could be work, right? You're going to go to work, and this is the same thing I said about younger, like little boys being unable to take punishment or authority from women, and that's extremely bad. That's dysfunctional, because your son could have a woman boss, right? And he has to be able to see woman as an authority figure. So, but we're not talking about a relationship. All right. So when you start saying a woman in terms of like a work capacity is aggressive, or that she, you know, talks a lot, or that she's in charge and she leads, you start to take that and say, oh, that's masculine. That's a problem with you. And that's how you identify authority with maleness, with men. So anytime like women could be in an authority spot, you see that as masculine, right? That necessarily doesn't mean that woman is doing anything wrong. or not doing something that a male boss would be doing, but you have a problem because who it's coming from. Right? So, and so one of the things that the guy listed in the comments is that he said, and if she cut people off when you're speaking, I find that, that's a masculine trait. And I was just really, who likes to be cut off when they're speaking? Right? And this is where, again, this is not about that it's a woman. I mean, it's not about that. It's not about what the person is doing. It's about the fact that it's a woman, right? If a man cuts off another man in the middle of speaking, and to interject their thoughts and opinions, that's rude behavior. That's unbecoming. That's rude. That's are you unable to control yourself, right? A lot of times what we see on Clubhouse. What I have found is that there's an exception made on Clubhouse in terms of, like, if you are that mod and if you are curating the conversation, then you're allowed to cut people off, interject when you want. And then is that not considered rude, or is that allowed because you created the room and you've put yourself at the head? I'm not knocking it, right? Each his own. If you tell me this is how you run your room, that's how you run your room, right? If I know I can't adhere, or if I'm not with that type of shit, then I don't go on your stage and interact with you, and we don't have any awkward exchanges, because I just know how I'm going to let somebody handle me, right? All right. So, but that being said, it's always good to just sit and listen, right? A lot of times. Okay? But I bring that example up to say, times that I could come across as masculine or over talking and cutting people off, I was the head. I was the curator of the conversation, right? So what's the difference? Is it rude or is it not rude, right? Or do we make exceptions for who we want to make exceptions for? Right? And that's what it comes across as for me. So that's why, that's why for me, I just learned to let a lot of people's bullshit go in one ear and out the other. Right? Because I've been on Clubhouse and seen men be fine with a very talkative woman, and she's saying whatever she wants and however she wants, and they fine, their manhood is fine. But it's another thing when it's a woman that intimidates you. Because it's not about the behavior. Y'all got to understand something when it comes to men in this. It's not about the behavior that pisses them off. It's about that you personally intimidate them. And that's what they don't like, right? A woman that can intimidate them. Not by, physical fear, but because you could intellectually just be smarter, right? So, yeah, that's where we're at. Just like a man to minimize a woman's perspective / opinion, she's entitled to feel how she feels. You don't have to agree. She is entitled, and he did minimize it, and that's exactly what ends up happening. Oh, she's crazy. She's difficult. Oh, why she didn't say something then? He knows that they've met and she's expressed herself, and then they dismissed it or played her off because, it's 2 against 1. And that's essentially what she's talking about. But, I hope she just gets to a place that she can better explain it and feels comfortable with explaining it. Because what ended up happening, the response to this was like, girl, you lying. And girl, you know how you were with the shit, right? From the public's perspective and the way it came across. Some women hate accountability. Look at the comments. Laugh out loud. That lady said there was no other women working, including production and staff. She obviously lied, but somehow envy wrong. Yeah. I mean, there's 3 hosts, so it's either 2 men, 1 woman, or 2 women, 1 man. Either way, somebody was going to feel like the odd man out. Exactly what I just said. Like, it just seems like she's just talking about the dynamics of 2 against 1. And men will go with men no matter what. Even if she's wrong, if she's right, men will just go with each other out of solidarity. And then, because what ended up happening, I'm going to be completely what it sounds like, is that the 2 men were going to have each other's back no matter what and support with what each other had to say. Not out of like the 2 men had an alliance like on some Big Brother shit in terms of just like ignoring her, but making sure that they support each other and what each other wanted. That's what was coming across. Technically, Angela is all we knew of as a lead, and that actually counts. I don't know what that person's saying. Because no one thought she was the lead. Something about her saying that just didn't sit right with me. Not sure what they're talking about. Their boss is even a woman. She stay capping. Well, it's Women History Month. Go ahead and shout out all the women that have made the Breakfast Club what it is. He should have just he should have just let her have that. Her feelings are valid. Nothing she said was offensive. So that led to that. Then that led to Erica Mena calling her out for, feeling as if though when she was dating DJ Envy, who was a married man, and she was unaware of it, that Angela Yee was aware of it. She didn't tell her, and that's not to say she has to. I don't think that's her responsibility. Stay in her place. I think the problem that Erica Mena has is that she involved herself and she helped try to cover for him, and she spoke against Erica to help cover for him, and she also spoke on her son. So it reads here, is this the same woman who helped DJ Shrimp play along in living this double life once upon a time? One of the few at the time that actually knew the truth of him being married, because the truth is for years he never openly acknowledged that, which is why I was one of the men he was with. She would be hanging with us knowing I was absolutely unaware that he was indeed married, but she still joined in with him fabricating this cry wolf scenario on radio just so he could save face in his broken marriage. The same woman that spoke about my child on air just helped him degrade me. The fucking nerve. Boy, do things come for a circle. So I think it's the last three lines of the, the degrading and bringing up her son on air that she takes offense to. Now, you have a problem with how they are, and you have a problem with how you're treated, how you're being treated. But as a woman, you'd go against another woman. So I think that's what she was saying. I will tell you from these comments, though, they were not here for Erica, and they think Erica should just leave it alone and shouldn't say anything. And they basically feel as if though, Angela Yee did not owe her that in telling her about him being married. And I totally agree. It does not work. I went through the same experience in terms of being really close friends, having a boy best friend, and eventually being really close friends with his baby mama. And as much as you try to keep it separated and don't be messy, situations and things come up. And as a woman, I'm more inclined to be on a woman's side because I can understand that perspective. Yeah, I can understand that perspective. So, yeah, like I said, I made the mistake of saying something. I don't regret it, right? Because sometimes you may not like who someone turned out to be in like real life. I don't regret it, but I did not do it in trying to ruin something. That was never my intentions. But it is what it is. And that person and him being mad at me, he has every right to be mad at me for that. I'm an adult. I can admit to my wrong. But my problem with that nigga is you don't get to lie on me. You don't get to lie on me. You don't get to put more on me than I actually did. You don't get to paint a narrative of me that is not true without being able to tell me personally, right? 20 years later, y'all. 20 years later. This shit's crazy. But no, I think everybody's right. Like Angela Yee did not owe Erica that, and they just want her to stop. Basically, they want Erica to stop. Okay, what did end up happening is something I did not like. After that happened, y'all seen the interview. Tamron Hall said she didn't even know all of that when it came to what was said by Angela Yee, because nobody knew, right? Nobody knew she felt like this. She did interview. She never alluded to being unhappy with what was being done and what was being said on the show. Never. She did not allude to it at all. Let me see. Okay, so after that, Angela Yee came out. There was something I wanted to. Angela Yee came out, and what I don't like what they did next is I don't like that they tried to smear Tamron Hall's name, because right after that there came out Porsha, who's interviewing on the Breakfast Club and doing guest co-host. She comes out immediately. It felt like a smear campaign between what's his name, DJ Envy and Porsha decided to talk about their experiences on Tamron Hall and how they felt like she was either like trying to set him up, or I don't know, they made it seem like she was trying to ask them like really hard questions and trying to catch them up. And it was like, that is not what setting somebody up is, right? What don't you understand? No, you do understand, right? And if you don't get this, I'm not quite sure why you interview people, right? You have to take time to do your research, have questions on hand, have some things that you can reference about what you found out about them, to have an interesting conversation with people, right? So you're going to have to ask them questions. That is not setting you up, right? People come from such a dumbed down space that they think that you have to adhere or contort to behaving or thinking like them. And it's sort of like, no, girl, you sound silly. Porsha went on Tamron Hall and she made up a whole bunch of shit about that. She was just really being really ridiculous and over the top about like her and Simon, and saying, I'm a Southern girl, and like just making up shit. And Tamron Hall was like, yeah, I'm Southern too, right? So someone just making up shit on the fly and they want you just to kind of agree with it. So it's sort of like she thought she was going on Tamron Hall to have this like fluff interview with like no like real questions, no pushback. And Tamron Hall is just like, I'm never going to compromise my stature of being a real journalist and not ask you real questions and not have real conversations. This is not entertainment, ET, right? This is not that. This is not TMZ. Like, this is not that either, right? Like, I'm a real journalist out here, and I get to it, right? That's how I've built my name, and you got to respect that, right? So, let me see. Where's it at? So, Porsha talked about her experience on the show. Porsha talked about her experience. DJ Envy came out and talked about him and his wife going on the show and how they felt bombarded, like, with questions and stuff like that. And maybe I don't have it. I probably don't have it. But basically, it felt like they were trying to smear them. And I remember reading a comment from Lonnie Love that was just basically, oh, here it is. Because again, it felt like they wanted to come out and make it seem like Tamron Hall was the problem in this situation by trying to ask Angela Yee difficult questions. But if you went back and you actually, do your due diligence, Tamron said, I didn't know that, right? Because if she knew, she would have asked those questions. But she said, I didn't know that, right? Because Angela Yee had never said nothing like this before. So this was a shock to everybody, right? But this is how grimy people are in this industry. It's fucked up. Right? So here goes Lonnie Love. She goes, wait, let me see. Okay, here we go.
She would have been able to expound on that. But when you have someone that's her asking questions about the book to her kind of...
Your fiance, Simon. When is the wedding? when is the wedding?
Right now, we haven't set our date. We are dating right now. He's still courting me. In the South.
How are you engaged and dating?
You don't date your husband?
No, I married him.
You should be dating. You should be keeping the excitement going. We're enjoying each other.
You're engaged to be married.
Right, and I'm still his special sweetheart. We're in the honeymoon phase. We're enjoying each other. Yeah, it'll come.
Okay.
And you don't need to be dating.
We date.
Dating nights are important. It's important.
When he proposed, we set a wedding date, and we followed through.
Yes, but you want to still keep up that nice feeling, getting dressed.
So a wedding date prevent you from doing that?
In the South, we call it.
I'm Southern.
We call it the courtship moment. And
your fiance, Simon.
Pure ridiculousness. Pure ridiculousness. Pure ridiculousness, because Tamron Hall most definitely felt like she knew she was making this shit up, because you started dating this man on this while you're filming Real Housewives of Atlanta, like you're on this show, and it was like within 6 months of like us knowing about you dating this soon to be divorced man from his previous ex-wife, who was also on the show, that was kind of friends with you, who brought you to her house and introduced you to your now husband, right? So real scandalous ass shit. So she meets Simon while filming, or probably even knew him before, because Atlanta is what it is, certain circles, and she's going to be around the circles with the money. So she probably knew of the nigga, whatever. She got her introduction, though, through his ex-wife. So they met on the show. They met on the show. Yeah, they met on the show. Whatever ended up happening between Simon and his ex-wife, they end up breaking up. And it wasn't long before Porsha was dating him, and within like 6 months, and I'm being even like generous by saying 6 months, she was engaged to the nigga, right? So when you see Tamron Hall like saying, but you know, when's the date? And she's like, oh, we're just dating each other, because these motherfuckers had not really dated each other. They had not really been with each other, right? So that's why for Tamron Hall, she knew, like, you got engaged to a man that you did not know, like, and you don't want to come out and say, so you were saying all this extra over the top bullshit that you were just making up. And I'm from the South, so I was like, what are you talking about, girl? But all right, here we go.
To your fiance, almost attacking me, almost making me feel like I had to justify anything that I had going on, and it just didn't feel good. Just her asking questions about the book, to her kind of almost attacking me, almost making me feel like I had to justify anything that I had going on, and it just didn't. If she probably had a chance, instead of talking to Tamron, she would have been able to expound on that. But when you have someone like a Tamron talking to you, and she's giving you accolades, and she's, you know, raising you up to do nothing but set you up to say something that's going to be catchy, and she can look like a journalist, then that's where you find Angela in this place, you know, trending for the wrong thing.
What you said just now is interesting, Porsha, because I feel like Tamron Hall and her producers got together at some point and said, look, Wendy Williams is leaving, so somebody on daytime TV has to be messy. Because it feels like Tamron has been being messy on that show lately. Is it just me?
Hidden mess.
Okay.
It's a hidden mess. I went on Tamron's show, and I was so excited. Okay, I mean, she's a beautiful black woman. She's, you know, branched off, got her own show.
Absolutely.
I did not necessarily feel supported on her show.
Really?
Did I expect her to agree with everything? I was promoting my book, The Pursuit of Porsha. I didn't expect her to agree with everything. But there was a turn where it turned from just, if she probably had a chance, instead of talking to Tamron, she would have been able to expound on that. But when you have someone like a Tamron talking to you, and
Okay, this part aggravated me. Like, I didn't see this video. Like, I didn't know it was all these clips in this video. But I will say this, and this is where Porsha, and this is what Charlotte the Queen just did, that was so manipulative, that was so sneaky, that was so disrespectful. Like, there's levels to this shit. There's a Wendy Williams level, and Wendy Williams will let you know that she most definitely was into tabloids, and she was most definitely into talking about the gossip, right? So she's in that lane of what she does, and she also is a journalist, and also I think she went to school for communications, or like something at Northeastern, right? So she's got an amazing, great education too, right? Wendy Williams, right? So, with that being said, she's in a different category. Tamron Hall is not a Wendy Williams, right? So when you see Charlotte tries to paint this brush of messiness around Tamron Hall, it was just his way of, in their way of, this is basically them trying to discredit her, right? To make her look like a certain way. There was nothing from what we've seen, and we can go back to Porsha's interview with Tamron. There was nothing that you've seen that was attacking, right? You want someone not to be able to hold you to, or you want someone not to actually have a conversation with you, well, they just let you just, you know, paint whatever narrative you want, and you just go on, and they never push back and never say anything, and it's your moment type of situation. And when you said that, well, you got Tamron trying to be like a journalist, that's exactly what she is, dodo brain. Right? And as much as, like, I do like Porsha, and I think she's beautifully amazing, I think she's great for a moment, she seems really fun and all those other things, but at the same time, she does not come across to me as bright. And with that being said, if Tamron Hall caused her to feel attacked by from what we just seen, you know there's something really going on. Like, people want to use these words, attack, aggressive, and all this other stuff, because they feel inadequate. Let's just call it what it is. You feel inadequate. Whew. Being like Wendy Williams. Tamron Hall's trying to be like Wendy Williams. Oh, you know, so like when I tell you Charlotte the Queen is such a bitch, I'm gonna say he is such a bitch, because when you make a woman, especially in the black community, you make her seem like a Wendy Williams, or you make her try to make her, or, you know, put that on her, that she's messy and all this other stuff, you know what you're doing. You know that you are putting out, what do they call those? It's like you're putting it out in the ethos so that everyone it could be aware and be scared and nervous of her, and then have apprehensions of going on her show. That's what it seems like. It seems like a hater move, right? Like, let's say she was trying to be the next Wendy Williams, right? She'll be her own type of. She'll bring something. Actually, I think she should go back to doing that type of TV show. But I don't think she'll be like Wendy Williams, because that's not her, right? But I know that she'd be amazing. And she'll be dope. She'll be intelligent. Yeah, she'll be intelligent. And she'll bring her own blackness to whatever she does. And I think it'd be a great representation to see her on actually TV again. So with that being said, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's making her look a certain way where people would want to avoid her. It's a bitch ass move. It's hating. It's a hater move. That's it. So Lonnie Love says, for my book tours, I was interviewed by Gayle King and Tamron Hall. Both read my books because they had the books marked with notes. Okay? Like, that's let me tell you, Lonnie ain't stupid either. I think she went to the People's University of Michigan or something. I think she majored in engineering. I may not care for, her, some shit she's done, but she's not dumb. Not a dumb woman. So she's letting you know the preparation that these women do in terms of Gayle King and Tamron Hall is different. Even what's her name, Robin Roberts, love me some her. Y'all better leave our good sis alone on their good jobs, right? Y'all want to come with this fuck shit from the black community and expecting to do this at these people's jobs and have them looking crazy. Yes, Meg, you had Robin Roberts looking crazy for going up there and lying, girl. Y'all better leave these people alone. Y'all done got Don Lemon all. Oh, damn. Jussie done. I mean, it's just bad. Leave these people alone on their jobs and let them do their jobs. Like, some people really got real titles, went to school for real things, and they have real formal training in what they do. And that looks a certain way. Y'all can be mad if you want to, but it does. So when Lonnie points out that these women actually read my books, you know what I'm saying? That's really important, because she knows that there are people who are not who do interviews that aren't prepared. So when you hear Porsha say, like a journalist, what? You mean like be prepared? Weirdo. Both read my books because they had the books marked with notes. I was fucking shocked and honored they took the time to read it. You know how her expectation, Lonnie's love expectations is so low, meaning that just says to me that she's used to going on interviews and people not doing their research and not knowing what they're talking about in terms of her book, right? There are interviews, that the person hasn't read the book, because they're going to be like, oh, hey, tell us about your book. And, the person's going to tell them about their book and, the things that they've been through and blah, 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 blah. The difference is when the interviewer will be able to be like, hey, I remember, and there's a part of the book that was so interesting to me. Do you mind talking about it? They'll be able to do things like that when someone cannot do that. And they just let the guests run on about what's in the book and, when it's coming out and what they got going on. And they never push back or have any questions about the book and what's in the book. Then that person hasn't did the homework for that interview, right? And so for Lonnie, she's saying that, it was just an honor. She says, I was fucking shocked and honored they took time to read it, but it helped to make a great interview. They are journalists. And in capital letters, they are journalists. Porsha wrote, so touching. And then Lonnie wrote, this is not about you, P, and I hope you know that. This is about the fact that there is a difference in journalists versus non-journalists. I'm an interviewer, but not a journalist, and I learned a lot by watching these women. Like, sometimes you gotta say to your good sis, yes, you may need to step back and really think about what you're saying and how it does not make sense, and understand who you are. And even Porsha being an interviewer does not make you a journalist. And to say that some woman who has over 20 years in the business is like a journalist, like, girl, you sound like a bird. An uneducated bird. The same bird that was on Real Housewives of Atlanta second season maybe, and talking about the Underground Railroad, you thought it was a real railroad. Like, I am all the way confused about, like, where'd you go in Atlanta? Like, it's just crazy. All right, so the caption did read on this. Lonnie Love defends Tamron Hall amid Porsha saying she's trying to look like a journalist. There's a difference between a journalist and a non-journalist. So let's see what the people said. Lonnie and Porsha exchanged words on Twitter. Tamron does the work. She embodies her job. If you are not a journalist, listen and be educated. That's a fact. Tamron is definitely a real journalist, but let's be real here. She was being shady towards Porsha, was cutting her off in her sentences and everything. I didn't think she was being shady. I don't think she was cutting her off. I think it was a conversation that was being had. This is where I think it was a back and forth conversation. So I don't think you then get to say, oh, you were cutting this person off. Sometimes in back and forth conversations, you do cut people off, but it's not in a way that's like sometimes on Clubhouse, like there's, on Clubhouse, like there'll be rooms that are set up like one person go and then you wait for them to finish and then the next person go, and then there's no crosstalk that happens on the stage. Like no, free form type of conversation. I think when people are having freeform types of conversations, that sometimes you do cut people off, but it's not in a malicious type of way. Now, if the rules are set within, parameters of like a conversation that's about to be had, that you let the person speak before you go, and you're that person always cutting somebody off, then yes, that is extremely rude and all this other stuff. But if it's a free form conversation and there's times that you may cut someone off, maybe, because it's just free form and it just is what it is. I don't know. I don't take that as a bad thing. Now, I'd rather be in free form conversations where people are allowed to exchange and go back and forth. I don't like myself. I'm not getting up on nobody's stage and doing no fucking soliloquies, right? Like if I want to address something, it's going to be because I'm talking about something that has been said. But yeah, I'm not a soliloquy type of, like, I don't sit on those stages. Those actually kind of drive me crazy. Because I be wanting to get my shit off like right then and there, or interject, or be able to, ask some questions. But I can't do that. But I can do it in the chat. Okay, so it says, although Tamron is indeed a journalist, after seeing a few of her most recent interviews, she has been throwing a lot of condescending shade towards other women. I have made my own assumptions that this truly who Tamron is. On another note, she better start dating her husband before. Yeah, like she's a bird. This person's a bird. See the baby is a bird. And I don't know if you know what condescending shade. Like I don't know what that is, because it's like I said, it's one of those words that like someone may just not like your voice and how you speak. The inflections in your voice, the ups and downs, and all of that. And they just don't like it, so they call it condescending. But then you'll see them talk to other people who have all types of, ups and down afflictions in their vote in a specific way of how they speak, and they're okay with that. So I don't know, each his own. Like again, you can just not like somebody in their style. What is it? Throwing shade. I just want to know what the shade is, right? I'm not reading all that. Why did you have all that to say? That's crazy. I think we have to learn. I think we have to learn your experience with someone may not be mine. Respect others' journey. That's a whole fact, though, too, in real life. Like, don't tell me what your experience with somebody is, or what your thoughts and impressions of somebody is, when I've had my whole full experience with that person in real fucking life. If I've known somebody and been close with somebody in real fucking life and got to see how they move and how they do, you can't tell me shit. I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm telling you what I know. I'm telling you what I experienced at the hands of them. Like, what you telling me? I'm confused because Andy Cohen is just as messy and nobody ever calls him out. That's a fact. And they run to be on Andy Cohen's show. So, right? When shit don't go your way, you want to label her. Porsha always getting triggered. You came on Tamron Hall with a messy situation. Exactly. All that backstory I provided you. This person is in, they know what they're talking about. With a messy situation and a scandalous book, including recounted sexual moments with R. Kelly, Porsha is a woman without substance. Period. And I remember when she wrote that book and she put R. Kelly in it, to me, like, I don't give a fuck about what you got to say about R. Kelly after the fact. All you after the fact motherfuckers want to talk about the weirdness of R. Kelly. Right? But you didn't say none of this shit when the nigga was out. You didn't say none of the shit before because it wouldn't have been a good look and people would have told you mind your business, or, no, you didn't say none of that. You waited till he was convicted, and you waited till, it was the cool thing to talk out and speak out against Robert R. Kelly. Like, get the fuck out of here. I remember that. Ooh, people, they like the comments. I promise you it'd be in the comments. They don't call white journalists doing interviews messy. That's a fact. No matter how rude they are, journalists are supposed to ask realistic questions. These reality stars, bloggers, / radio personalities are opinionated and choose favorites. They don't care about the truth. Just clickbait for likes. Leave Tamron alone and stop trying to hurt her brand because y'all in your feelings. That's exactly how it felt. And that's why I said it was like, you seen the interview with Angela. She said, "Oh, I didn't know that." Angela kept talking and kept saying the shit she wanted to say. And then you had Porsha, and then you had DJ Envy come out to talk about Tamron Hall. So that's how you know niggas be colluding, and like it's bullshit. And for me, I don't look at, I'm going to be completely honest, as much as I like Porsha and think she's extremely beautiful, personality is a personality, right? Doesn't mean a motherfucker's solid, doesn't mean a motherfucker's real, doesn't mean a motherfucker won't steal your husband that you introduce her to. It don't mean none of that, right? As we can see. So, yeah. I don't understand why people don't understand that just because she's a journalist doesn't mean she's not a mean girl. Hell, Barbara was a mean girl too. We just say they're doing their job. You can be a damn good journalist, ask damn good questions without being mean about it. It's really so simple. And shut up, Lonnie. Still don't trust you. What is being a mean girl about it, right? Because I think when you're like firm and you're like confident, people like equate that to being mean, right? Barbara, I've sat and watched Barbara interviews, and there's times she was very hard. But again, that doesn't make her a mean person. That doesn't make her a mean person. At difficult interviews, you're going to show up differently, right? Especially when you're trying to get to the truth and the bottom of things. So, I don't know. People, like I said, this generation is interesting and sensitive. Tamron is definitely a good journalist, but she lost me when she was being shady about dating when engaged. Because, no, I don't know why she lost you. I think this person doesn't understand. The book is messy as hell. She's in a messy situation. You just got engaged to a man that you barely know. What you mean you dating? You're supposed to do that first before you say I do. That's when I could tell that she was bothered by Porsha. Couples don't stop dating because they're engaged. Tamron was definitely in a hater mode during that part. She wasn't even thinking straight. Nah, I don't know. I don't see it the way she did. All right, y'all. That's all I got for this one. I really did want to talk about it because they had so much going on with it, with Tamron. Someone who I really, really do support, and I think is dope as fuck. I just think Porsha, as much as she's just a pretty girl, but she is a dimwit, right? Like, it just is what it is. She's not going to be able to have deep, substantive conversations about different things. She's going to need a lot of cliff notes, a lot of help. And that's why shows like Dish Nation and maybe even The Breakfast Club, I think she probably would do great on The Breakfast Club, to be completely honest. Even with all this being said, they're not getting interviews. They're not interviewing people for like a half an hour, 45 minutes, and like it's supposed to be in-depth, groundbreaking, journalistic interview. So I think she does fit. I think she'd be a great personality. Yeah, and that's that. That's that. I don't feel like playing this because I think I've read his comments and that's basically what he's saying. Anything else real quick? Y'all, this story right here. I'm not going to play the video, but these are twin sisters and y'all know how I feel about the eyes because I always tell y'all them eyes tell you that someone is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or they got that tick 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 boom. That sister on the right with this hair right here, that's that tick 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 boom, that tick 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 boom, that tick 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 boom, that's what that is. Yo, I see eyes like that. And then my brother had to put me on to, like, when you see people like in spaces and places with their dogs, like when we were at the casino, and he was like, yo, you know, when you see people with their dogs, now I don't know if it's true, I'm gonna look it up. He said they probably that's their emotional support dog. I was like, boy, are you serious? He was like, yeah, they probably, not all right. I said, no, you're lying, right? And so I was like, you lying. And so all of a sudden, like, I would just start noticing everybody like being at places that you don't bring your dog to. Like, I would see people just like carrying their dogs like little babies. I was like, yo, bro, you really trying to say they may be crazy? So one day we get on the elevator and somebody got their dog. And I take my brother's jacket. I was like, bro, they got a dog. Don't do nothing. And we start laughing. Because he got me thinking that means that person may be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Okay, back to the eyes, yo. Them eyes is scary, yo. But long story short, these women, the woman on the right, and in the green with the green shirt, she was arrested and put in jail in 2021 for stabbing her 7-year-old daughter Madison to death. I think she stabbed her. I think the girl was like 5. But she stabbed her to death. I think she stabbed her over 30 times. A beautiful little girl. She didn't stab her. I think it was like her stepbrother that was in the house at the same time. From the video I watched, it says that just out of nowhere, she just started stabbing them, right? I then found out that she had recently, before that, been released from a mental institution. So she had some mental issues. I was thinking maybe she was like, tripping off of getting high or something. But no, I guess it was pre-existing and well known that she had some mental health issues. Now, 2 years later in 2023, the one on the left who has 5 kids. Now, just remind you, these girls are only but 25 years old, from them people's Italy, Texas. Yeah, a small town. I think they said 40 minutes from Fort Worth, Texas. So she had 5 kids. The one on the left, who had been taken from her, and so the 5 kids were actually with their grandmother, her mother. She was not supposed to have any visits with them, no, unsupervised visits and all this other stuff. It just so happened that the social worker just knew that they weren't adhering to the rules. She did a pop-by on the house, and when she went to the house, that's where she found and walked into the woman having killed 3 of her 5 kids. The oldest one, who was 6, and I think there was a set of twins, which is a boy and a girl. She ended up killing them. Now, the oldest one, the 6-year-old, he was so cute, and his daddy was cute too, y'all. I mean, his daddy was cute. His daddy's so cute. I'm trying to figure out what the daddy seen in this one right here. The daddy was so cute. Anyway, so long story short, the father had been trying to get custody of the son, and his mother and stepfather were going to take him, right? Because he said he had a background, like I guess he had went to jail before. Let me tell you something. I don't think someone having a record, just having a record, and depending on what that record is, should keep them from being able to get their children. Like if they've gotten out and they've been able to establish themselves, they work a job, they have an apartment, and they seem to like they're on a good, and they're not getting in any trouble. They don't have any current cases. They have employment. And for this father, he had his mother who was going to step in, right? So I'm not quite sure why they did not give the boy to his grandmother on his father's side. Yeah, and I think he should sue them, right? I think he should sue them. They came and looked at his mother's house, and the house was suitable, and they never heard anything back again until the boy showed up dead with the mother, right? So no, I think fathers should most definitely have equal, and I don't care about all the kids got to stay together things. If that's not the situation, and it's safety, and you're able to find a kid a stable home or put them in a stable situation, that should be first. That should be first. Like, that blows my mind that this 6-year-old boy, his life could have been saved. So I hope he sues them, to be honest with you. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to even read the comments. I mean, because, like, this shit is just crazy. A Texas mom who allegedly stabbed her 5 children and killed 3 of them has a twin sister who was suspected of the same eerie crime. On Friday, Ellis County Sheriff's Office arrested Shamia. I don't know. That's all her name? Okay, Shamia Hall at an Italy, Texas home on 3 charges of capital murder. A judge set her bail to $6 million. She's never getting out. The police reported to the residents around 4 p.m. on behalf of a request from a Texas Child Protective Services. All 5 children were attacked and removed from the home. After the initial phone call was made, all 5 children had severe knife injuries. Hall, 25, fatally stabbed her 3 kids, a 6-year-old boy, 5-year-old twins. Damn, she was having these kids back to back. Baby, mental health and like all of this. Like, her oldest is 6 and her youngest is 13 months. That's a lot mentally. 1 a boy and 1 a girl. Her other children, a 4-year-old boy and a 13-month-old girl, survived the life-threatening attacks. Can you imagine? However, reports show that 2 years ago, twin sister Porsha, 25, allegedly stabbed to death 7-year-old, so she was 7-year-old Madison Perry over 30 times at a home in Dallas. A 16-year-old was also stabbed but survived the wounds. So her daughter was 7 years old 2 years ago. That means Porsha was 23 and she had her daughter like what? Was that 14 and 15? Okay, she had her daughter like 15, 16. No, like 14. Whew. Court documents show Porsha was incompetent to stand trial and was sent to a mental health facility instead. More charges will be brought against Hall. So the sister is mentally incompetent and unable to stand trial, and that she's actually in Looney Tune. They do look a little off. I'm not even trying to be funny this time. I promise. The fucking eyes. This is exactly why I'm pro-choice. Okay? I mean, the pro-choice should have happened 25 years ago. She got a bad set right here. She got a bad set of twins right here. Oh, this person says, our community is so uninformed about mental health. That is a fact. There's always clues before these incidents. These women probably grew up under abusive conditions. Children who are abused severely developmentally become delayed at that age. They continue to enter into abusive relationships without seeking therapy. Where are the men that impregnated these women and walk away with their hands clean? They then commit these heinous acts to be judged by the same community that failed them. Those kids never stood a chance. That abuse is generational. Those kids are rest in peace, but I pray for the next kid in the situation. I do agree with that first, since our community is so uninformed about mental health. And with us being uninformed, what I do know is that you made up a lot of narrative around this situation that you do not know for a fact, right? Let me see. These women probably grew up under abusive conditions. I just haven't heard anybody say that. Like, I even read a comment that said that someone said they grew up with them and they were just regular, right? They were just regular. But I also seen videos where there was an ex-boyfriend who one of these girls stabbed and would called him one day and was like, I'm coming over to beat you up. Like, that type of shit. Like, they were reckless. Like, they were bullies. They were throwing their weight around. Like, it seems like these women are just troubled people. And sometimes it's not always parents. I hate when people do that. Like we don't know. Like, we make up a whole bunch of stuff without knowing. There's been situations where I remember there's this story I read, and it was a white family, and the mother, the 15-year-old son, was hearing voices, and the mother did not tell his psychiatrist, right, because he would be locked up. So out of embarrassment, she didn't tell the psychiatrist. She thought, they could deal with it, right? Long story short, the boy ended up killing his whole entire family except a brother, and I think his grandfather, and I think the brother wasn't even home. But he even killed his step-grandmother. So he killed his father, he killed his sister, he killed his father, his sister, his mother, and his step-grandmother, right? He killed the whole fucking family. So I say that to say there's nothing about that boy's life that that you can tie to any type of abuse, right? He literally had a mental disorder. The mother thought she was doing the right thing by not having him committed, and he ended up killing them. So I say that to say it just is what it is. Sometimes people come out that way. Sometimes it just is what it is, right? So I hope we just take time to learn more about what the actual situation is, because I don't know if I feel like these girls may have been abused. I don't get that impression. I think why would CPS, and I'm just hypothetically, let's say this girl's right, but why would CPS put the kids into their mother's care, right? Like, how about the boy who killed his mother because she wouldn't let him order the Oculus, the thing for the video games? Y'all know what I'm talking about, the things you put on your eye, and the boy ended up killing his mother because she wouldn't let him order it, right? And there's nothing abusive in his situation. his aunts and uncles talk about like how violent he was and how he, you know, he had issues, and it just fucking happens, right? Now you want to blame these trifling ass mothers that's in their streets with these kids? Yeah, you can blame them. You can blame them trifling ass mother who excuse and enable their kids in bad behavior. Yes, most definitely you can call that out. But y'all don't want to call that out. Y'all don't want to call that out. How about the mother that gave her 10-year-old daughter the gun, that when she got into a fight in people's projects down in Florida, she got into a fight. She took her 10-year-old daughter to roll with her, right? Down the street so she can go beat a lady up. Lady ended up beating her ass, and she gave her daughter a bag that had the gun in it, and the daughter pulled the gun out and killed the lady who was fighting her mother, right? Yeah. Those are the parents you fucking blame. But you can't just randomly be blaming people because people have mental health issues. It's no. All right, I'm out, y'all. Y'all be blessed. Y'all be black SF. Y'all be black SF. Y'all be posh SF. And y'all be black, y'all. I am out.